Hi. Yeah, this is a interview with Grandma Judy. She's gonna talk about her memories of growing up in the Lower East Side in the 1940s. So we're just gonna ask a couple of questions and try to get some good stories. Okay, tell us about the playground and the pool that you grew up in the neighborhood.
Well, on our street corner, we had a big park. It had everything: swings, slide, monkey bars, sand pile, wading pool, punch ball court. It wasn't as big as a baseball field, so the kids could play punch ball there. And there were benches around, and I played there with my friends. We jumped rope, we played jacks, we played the pink Spalding ball. My name is Anna, and so on. And we had a lot of fun. We spent a lot of happy hours there playing.
Yeah, tell the story about the pool.
And then the pool was at another street, Pitt Street Pool, and that had a big, giant, tremendous pool, which was like 3 feet deep around the edges, and so we could spend all day in there. But next to it was a big, smaller pool, but with all diving boards, four low boards and one giant high board. And I couldn't swim, so my sister would catch me when I jumped off the board and let me hold on to the edge till I could get out of the ladder.
How did you deal with the food situation?
The food situation was, well, we were lucky. We had a mother that would bring us sandwiches in a brown bag and throw it over the fence. But otherwise, we had a little money, and there were kids hanging out outside the fence who wanted to come into the pool. So you would give them money to go to the store across the way and get you like some chips or a pretzel or candy, and whatever it cost, you gave it to them. They brought it back to you, and you gave them a penny tip. And that's how you got something to eat when you weren't allowed to bring food in. And they would keep doing it until they got enough money, which was 9 cents, to come into the pool themselves. I guess there were some people that couldn't even afford the 9 cents to go to the pool. We were lucky. We were able to get the money from our parents.
Well, we've always heard stories about the the food peddlers in the Lower East Side neighborhoods. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we had all kind of goodies coming. One of the main things I would remember was the Jelly Apple Man. He came with a bunch of apples, sticks, and he had a tub filled with hot jelly. So he'd put an apple on a stick, dip it into this hot jelly, and as the jelly cooled, it hardened and it got crunchy. And it was the most delicious thing you could ever want to eat. And we had the guy come around to our school with Italian ices. He had a little push cart with 2 tubs of ices. One was always lemon, and the other one was always a different flavor, chocolate or cherry or something, pineapple. And that was a treat. You came out of school, and I think it was like for 2 or 3 cents, you could get a little cup of Italian ices.
Did they do the big block of ice and scrape it?
Not at that time. That came later on. A lot of people came to our neighborhood from Puerto Rico, and that seemed to be a thing of their people. That they got a big chunk of ice, and they had a scraper, and inside they'd scrape the ice, and inside it would hold on to that ice, and then they would dump it into a cup, and then they had all kinds of bottles of that looked like old whiskey bottles filled with syrups, cherry, lemon, pineapple, blueberry, all different kinds, and you can get whatever flavor you wanted. It probably only costed a couple of cents to buy one.
What
And
kind of other food did they have?
the coconut man came around
Coconut
and
man?
just sold pieces of coconut. There was somebody coming around selling knishes. somebody coming around selling hot sweet potatoes, a whole sweet potato, roasted,
Wow.
and or a soft pretzel, a soft salty pretzel. You know, we were a poor neighborhood, but on certain things we were rich because we had everything contained right in our neighborhood. And if you walked down one of the main streets, you would see guys with push carts selling things like pots and pans, clothing,
New
fruit,
and new or used clothing or both.
both, both. And then there weren't any supermarkets in our neighborhood. So each specialty had their own store, a butcher shop, appetizing store, which was great. The appetizing store sold all kind of goodies like smoked fish, lox, olives, all kinds of peppers and side dishes. The delicatessen store, which was a deli where you could buy things over the counter or eat there as a restaurant, where you could have salami sandwich, corned beef pastrami. That was its own specialty. The matzah factory was in our neighborhood, and when we walked by, if the guys were there working, which still exists, I understand, the Strites Matzah Factory. The broken pieces of matzah they would hand to the passers-by. We'd stand there looking, and if there was the broken pieces of matzah, they would hand them out to you. There were a dairy store where you just went to buy milk and cheese and butter and things like that, eggs.
And did they have actually animals in the back, or did they bring them from somewhere else?
No, there were no animals in the back.
How about the settlement house?
The settlement house, we had this settlement house called the Grant Street Settlement, which was like a wonderful place where you went. They were open all day long, and when we went to school, we would go there after school, and we could shoot pool, go up to the gym and play kickball, or dodgeball rather. We had sewing class where we could learn how to sew, arts and crafts. And then at Christmas time, they always gave us a big party, and everybody got a box of Christmas candy and a toy. The girls got like a little doll, the boy got a game or a little car. They took us on trips. They ran a summer camp. It was just, it was a place to go, and your mother knew where you were. She didn't have to worry that you were getting into trouble anywhere, because she knew where you were at a safe haven. And then about 5 o'clock, it was time to leave, and you just went home for your supper. And that evening, everybody would sit around the table and listen to the radio, because we didn't have a TV.
So how did they deal with the horses, the street vendors?
The guys that had, were lucky enough to have a whole wagon with a horse, they would unhitch their horse after the day's work and slap the horse on the behind, and the horse would run by itself down city streets and blocks to where they had stables, which was around the corner from where we lived, and the horses were so well trained they would just run back to their stable. And I guess the next day the peddlers would go get their horse and reattach it to their wagon.
So they didn't have to physically bring the horse back.
Right. The horses could run back alone. And the horses, the only bad thing about the horses, they left trails of their stuff in the street. So you always had to watch where you walked when you crossed the street. And people would say, well, if you step in it, it's good luck.
Well, that's true.
Well, I don't know how true it is, because I tried awfully hard never to step in it.
Yeah, it only counts for good luck if you don't step in it on purpose.
Right. Well, anyway, our parents did not have their own washing machine or dryer or any of those kind of appliances. So I remember sometimes Well, my mother had a lot of wash. Mostly she washed the clothes in the bathtub. And she hung them out on a line, which I would be petrified to do because we lived up on the 4th or 5th floor. And the clothesline was attached to the building across the way. And she'd be with a pulley, and she'd be hanging out the laundry. I never knew of anybody that fell out the window doing it, but it was scary looking. And then my mother would sometimes bring a bundle of laundry. There was this wet wash, big laundry place. She would drop off the clothes, and then when you picked them up in the bundle, they were wet, so they were extra heavy. So these drunken bums would hang out around there, and my mother would call over a drunken bum, give him a nickel tip, and he would carry the laundry all the way back to our house and go up the stairs and bring the laundry, and then my mother would hang it out on the line.
Wow.
Imagine, for a nickel, and he was glad to get it because he could probably buy a beer for that nickel.
Yeah, that's true. And they probably had a free lunch at the bar too.
Oh, I don't know.
Did you? What
There,
about
so.
the fiddle man?
Then
story?
we had the fiddle man that came around during the winter months when you were in the house in the evening. You hear him playing his violin, and you go open your door in the hall. There was about 5 or 6 apartments on each floor. We'd open our door and watch him playing the fiddle. And when he got done playing, everybody would just throw pennies at him. And he'd pick up all the pennies, and he'd go to the next floor. And somebody always said, I bet that guy has thousands of dollars socked away from all the pennies that he makes.
Do you remember any of the songs he played?
I can't say that I did, but they were mostly classical type songs, and he was a pretty good violin player. But I guess he could never get a job in a real orchestra at the time, and this is how he made his living. But he always dressed like a dirty bum with a big black overcoat with big pockets. I guess that was to hold all the pennies.
How about the adult dancing night at the pool?
Oh, that was every Friday night during the summer. They emptied out the wading pool and they sprinkled, I think it was soap flakes, onto the concrete to make it like slippery so they could dance.
Yeah.
And in the building there was a park house where the park teacher, we used to call them, the person that was in charge of the park. They would play records all evening, which they got from the Grand Street settlement, and play records all evening. And young couples would go into the pool and dance. You could dance outside the pool, but actually that was the fun of it. This way you felt like you were in a dance hall under the stars.
What about the kids? What were the children doing?
Kids would be running around and watching them dance and just playing and running around. And all the parents would come down and sit on the benches. And
so the place was lit up?
The place was lit up, and it was like a festive night. It was a special night.
And they had a playground over there for the kids?
Yes, during the day we were there in the park at the playground. They had swings, they had seesaws, they had slides, monkey bars, punch ball field.
No, I meant like when the parents were dancing, did the kids go in the playground?
Oh yeah, because it was all open. It wasn't like locked away or anything. It was always open. And but it was too dark like to play jacks or anything like that. And the music made everybody wild, like kids would be running around the pool area, just running around, and then every now and then your mother was sitting out there on the bench. You had to go check in so she knew you were there and what you were doing. And that was fun. During the winter months, they had the dances in the Grand Street settlement with the same records and in the auditorium.
Do you remember what street the Grand Street settlement was on?
Yes, it was on Rivington Street, and we never could figure out why it was called the Grand Street settlement, because it was not on Grand Street. It was on Rivington Street.
Grant with a T or a D?
No, Grand with a D.
Oh, Grand
Street.
But there is a Grand Street. Or
There is. There is a Grand Street, and